This is AVWeek, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I'd say welcome back to myself, but that sounds a little narcissistic. Welcome back to you, the listener who likes me more than George. Both of you. George Tucker filled in for me last week so I could recover from Infocom. Basically, I made him not recover, and now he's recovering this week. With us this week is Mr. Bradford Ben from Harman International. How are you, sir?
I'm okay. How are you, Mr. Albright, sir? I feel like I haven't talked to you in forever.
I know. It's an inside joke because Bradford and I have spent the last 3 days together.
Plus Infocom.
In some way, shape, or form. Yeah, plus Infocom. So, and also with us is Mr. Rich Fregosa from FregosaDesign.com. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. In the words of Ernie Banks, let's play two. So, pulling double duty this week.
Yeah, because he was on State of Control. I've actually
State of Control. Yeah, we bookended it.
Yeah, and that's kind of sacrilegious because you're a Giants fan. So.
Yeah, that's okay. It's Ernie Banks. You know, you can't. You know, at that point, you just gotta let it go.
There's certain respect you have for players, even if they're not yours. It's kind of like
Go ahead.
I still respect Wayne Gretzky, even though he was a flippin' Ranger.
Well, Wayne Gretzky. I was gonna say Wayne Gretzky and Gordie Howe, right?
Yes.
Because I'm a Blues fan, and it's almost sacrilegious again to enjoy anyone that wears a Red Wing jersey.
Preach on, brother.
Huh?
Preach on. I hate the Red Wings.
So that's for my brother Kevin Iselli. So.
Yes, they send you to the box, and then you feel shame.
My hand go up, it become icing. Puck goes down ice.
All of our podcasts are brought to you by the fine folks at Middle Atlantic Products. Go by the website. We'll talk about them in a few minutes. But they've revamped their entire website. Our friend Becky Villarreal, is in charge over there. So check them out. Middle Atlantic. What great systems are built on. A couple things real quick. Who cares that LeBron James has just announced that he's going back to Cleveland?
Do they have a hockey team?
No, yeah. What you said they did? You said they have a minor league.
They
hockey
have a
team.
minor league hockey team, the Cleveland Lumberjacks, which I should Google and make sure they're still in business. But basketball's a waste of ice hockey space.
Yes, some of the posts were today is like in other basketball news, Michael Jordan rolls his eyes.
Yeah, exactly. Michael Jordan rolls another $20 million just and wipes with it. So, all right, real quickly, and I don't want to make make light of this, but I don't want to spend too much time on this. There's a reason you two are on this broadcast, and there's a reason I sent an email out to both of you, and I said I want both of you on the same week. Tell me when that is, right? Because of both of your crazy schedules. Bradford is a literal globetrotter, and Rich programs everywhere from the Bangor, Maine, all the way down to Southern California on a regular basis. 3 years ago, I had Google Plus had just come into fruition, and I was screwing around one day on Google Plus. I was a tech manager for a small community college outside of St. Louis, and like, hey, there's this cool thing called Hangouts, and I'm like, well, what is this thing? And again, I'm nobody. I'm still nobody, and I'm just screwing around, and this very nice gentleman, industry veteran, and very intelligent man, who happened to work for Crown, i.e. Harman, and an accomplished programmer, and again, very accomplished and important to the industry, said, yeah, sure, we'll hang out with you. That's those two gentlemen right there. So 3 years ago, I actually met you, Mr. Fregosa, and you, Mr. Bradford, on this very platform, oddly enough. And this was the genesis of AVWeek, right? This was the genesis of AV Nation. So, after our conversation, and I can't even remember at this point what we were chatting about.
Yeah, I think at that point it was let's see if this thing works.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the first one.
We were beta.
It was that moment of, I have a walkie-talkie. Oh, look, someone else has a walkie-talkie. Let's have some fun.
On the same frequency.
Woohoo!
Yeah, we were CB buddies in the in the millennial age. But no, I remember it. It was kind of the launching point for a lot of us in terms of just focusing on social media and leveraging social media and how it all came together. I know for me it was the beginning of how am I going to look at this technology. Obviously, more and more people are going to be using it, and we needed to get up to speed on it. And and more than anything else, thank you for building something out of nothing. I mean, we just have. I feel like I just showed up to the party. I mean, you guys did the legwork.
No, I'd say that both of you, and there are a lot of people. I mean, everybody from George Tucker and Michael and Matt Scott and Don Mead and now Harry Mead and Chris Netto and a bunch of folks have gathered around us and have helped build this. So thank you.
Even little Johnny Moda.
Even little Johnny
Bring
Moda.
Out Your Dead, the podcast one, Bring Out Your Dead.
Yes. That was awesome. If you don't know what we're talking about, go back to episode 1 or 2, I think.
There's 1. There was 000, I think, is what we labeled it originally.
Well, 000 was the first one. That was with Tucker and Linda Frembes.
Yeah,
Frembes, sorry. I always screw up her name. And my buddy Michael Drager.
I always screw up her name, but I get Rich's right, so it's all good.
Oh, okay, well. And actually, for the longest time when I tweeted Rich Fregosa's Twitter tag wrong. I think I always added an extra F, like RF for Goza. I wanted to have him to have a middle name of F, so I was like,
exactly.
So anyhow, thank you to both very much for saying yes. So for hanging out with me and 3 years ago and helping us build this. And both of you said, almost immediately when I said, hey, I have this crazy idea. Both of you said, yeah, sure, cool, let's do it. So
let's have some fun.
Some fun. All right, let's have some fun then.
I think I had hair then.
I
think I had hair then. I don't remember.
It wasn't that long ago.
I didn't have this.
You didn't have that. That's like recent. The if you're listening to the podcast, it's not quite a Fu Manchu because you don't have the top part of the Fu Manchu, but you have a very long goatee.
Yes, the wife did not like the mustache, but she likes the goatee. So wife acceptance factor.
That's all. And this with me, this is 3 months of no shaving.
Impressive.
Yes, you like that?
And this is 3 hours of no shaving. So.
This is somewhere in the middle of that. This is. I like it because whenever I'm stroking it, I'm thinking evil thoughts.
This is also why Brad and I are not on the same show, because we spend the first 6 minutes actually just talking about nothing. So.
However, I still think my favorite Rich Fregosa story.
Okay. Is it airworthy?
Yes, it's airworthy. Okay. So I'm sitting in my office in lovely Elkhart, Indiana. I might have been drinking my classic after-lunch beverage of Starbucks, and I get this call from a coworker of mine hey, I'm in New York City, I'm working on this, I got some questions, blah, blah, blah. And then about 30 seconds later, a tweet pops up or something came up from Rich of, I'm in New York City, I'm working on this BSS thing, can you give me a hand? And it took me about 15 seconds to realize they were standing in the same room together.
Nice.
At which point I go, tell Rich I said hi, and I'll get you guys the code or something like that. So that was one of those great moments of my brush with greatness with Mr. Fregosa was I can blow someone's mind from a couple thousand miles.
We had our own inception moment on the 53rd floor of the W Hotel in Times Square. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm just excited when one of my programs work.
So am I. Trust me. I spent last night chasing down a clock sync problem on USB to AES. So, yeah, it's the little things.
It's the little things. All right, so let's talk about things a little bit more exciting than LeBron James and the inception of AVWeek. My buddy, my pal, my soulmate when it comes to OLED, Don Mead, emails me this yesterday. It's like, yes, this now from our buddies at Gizmodo and from the files of please God just make this happen so we can all move on. The flexible 18-inch screen OLED from LG. If you're not watching it, you should be watching the video because holy crap, the diameter of this roll is the size of a paper towel, right? It's the size of a paper towel cardboard center. Come on. And I know I even wrote a blog post saying that OLED was dead because it feels like it is, right? Both Sony and Samsung have given up the ghost, but LG's like chugging along and putting out crap like this just to tease us. Bradford, I'll let you do the anchor on this one. Rich, where are we at with this, right? Is this just another, not vaporware because obviously it's a physical, it really is doing it. But are we going to see this anytime soon, or are they just kind of teasing us with this just to, I don't know, to increase interest in LG or something?
Well, ironically enough, it was right when we got the link to this. Not more than a couple hours later, I get a message from my wife saying, "Check this out.
Oh,
This is really
nice.
cool." So, for me, for it to be news that excited her, I went, okay. The concept itself. There's a lot more traction to it than just maybe us kind of geeking out over it. Again, my feeling is that it's once they get it focused on mobile, I think they threw out kind of, and someday we'll make one that's a 60-inch TV. I think that's just kind of the tag on that they've made to it.
And they're going to make it Ultra HD.
Exactly. I mean, you look at the resolution, you look at everything that, the initial specs with it. I just kind of keep going to, okay, how are you going to power it? How's it going to last? If you think about, tablet and phone theft that's occurring at this point in those percentages, that if you've got your little rolled up OLED screen that's basically kind of like carrying a newspaper under your arm, you wonder how many people are going to get mugged for their OLED screens at that point, carrying their little virtual newspaper around. So it's, again, I keep coming back to it. If they make it work in mobile, and they get the kind of the economy of scale set up for it, because again, in the old days, it used to be, why was a 42-inch plasma so expensive? Because that was as big as you could get the glass, and then it got more expensive. So when the 60 and the 103-inch plasmas came out, the prices plummeted. Why? Because you can get 4 or 5 out of that same piece of glass. So the manufacturing process is reversed at this point. They're going small and then saying, we'll see if we can make it bigger. But at that point, if you think about it, I mean, just the defect level, it's, how cost prohibitive would it be at that point to throw the equivalent of, kind of thumbtacking your TV onto the wall at that point?
Or better yet, I mean, here's the thing, but better yet, we just posted a booth tour we did at Infocom of Draper. And I've said this before. I'm looking for, because I come from the world of education, right? I come from higher ed. I'm looking for the day when Draper teams up with LG and makes it an all-in-one pull-down screen, and you put a HDMI port in the back and power, and that's everything, right? So you've got it to where the diameter that you can roll this thing is such that that Draper can put an LG flat OLED on one of their spools, and you pull it down, you do your presentation, and you roll it back up.
See, that's where I start to get interested in it, is in the commercial, and I don't want to say business because that sounds a little weird, but the idea of, so let's say I'm a business traveler, to Rich's point of I have my OLED screen under my arm as I'm walking in. I now have a 40-inch thing I can lay out on the conference room table and get high resolution and do my customer demo and all that stuff, instead of having lower the screen, hope they have a good projector. Is the projector the right resolution? I get to the hotel and I want to watch or do work or whatever, I can pick up a small electronic device like a mobile device like this to do email and stuff, but instead of looking at it on here with the small little keyboard, put it up on the big screen through mirroring. So I see some uses like that. I also see the idea of, I know we got a story coming up about wall art, digital wall art, but think about wrapping a column in one of these. Yes, you can wrap a column in LED lights. Yes, you can project onto it. You can do all those other things, but literally, let's look at a convention center. We put stickers on all those columns and boxes around all those columns at the convention center during Infocom. How much less expensive would it be for the facility to just literally wrap the column? If it becomes cost effective, this medium, the OLED screen, and poof, you have digital signage and theming all over the place that's easier in theory to put on than having to take screens and wrap them around, or do an LED board that you wrap around, like you said. You wrap it around, you glue it up, poof, it's done, and now send your image to it. So I see some of those benefits more than I see consumer. Consumer-wise, other than, like you said, being able to roll down the screen, but realistically, rolling in a live education format, rolling down a screen and having the video projector there is going to be minimally cost-effective and cost savings, I think.
Here's where it becomes interesting, right? First of all, it's one less piece of equipment that you have to monitor and maintain. Secondly, it's a lot harder for someone to throw basically a projection screen case on their back and walk out the door. So
True story.
there's a security issue with that. And thirdly, one thing that a lot of education places are running into is, especially with as interactive as these presentations are becoming, you have the projection beam issue.
Yeah, it's.
Go ahead.
Yeah, where the presenter is staring into the projector.
Exactly. So you eliminate all of that, which is actually what the rise of these short throws. I think that's part of why short throws are becoming more and more popular. And you eliminate all of that, and you put it all right there, right behind the instructor.
Now,
go ahead.
If you can make it touchscreen.
Oh, jeez.
As long as you keep 3D off it. But make it touchscreen.
You're right. You make it interactive like that, it's a done deal.
It sounds funny. I was at a car dealership, I guess it was last year when I bought my car. The whole process was a 42-inch touchscreen that was the guy's desk to sign and review all the paperwork and do it all electronically. And it was easy. And I'm sitting there going, if you can do that with an OLED, and I can bring that into a meeting and lay it down and draw and sketch on it and do all that stuff, I could see the business applications for the Road Warrior instead of a Pico projector. Bring something like this.
Go ahead, Rich.
Oh, no, I was saying absolutely. My wife's in education, and that was the first thing that she brought up. She said, look, if I can get, right now, we have to bring our tablets, and we've got the carts that we bring out, or every kid has to bring out their Chromebook, and then we have to sync up, and, we've got a projector in here, and how does she get it all up? And, she, her thought was, if I get these, I stack like 8 of them, and they're maybe an inch thick all together, hand them out, throw them on the collaboration stations where they're working, and these kids can either have a little wireless hard drive, or again, if it's touchscreen enabled, or if not, even just a wireless keyboard. She's like, that just the ability for them to move quickly and create collaborative stations. And I went, yeah, it makes sense, because if you think about it, you can sort of do it now. Yeah, you can get one of those virtual keyboards that does the IR on the table, and you can get a Pico projector, and but all of the baggage that goes along with it kills the collaborative process, especially in education, right?
Right. And there are
X minutes to get out, and then you've got your actual instructional time in between.
Now, to be fair, because we happen to own a company that makes education collaboration products, there are some products that do that. This has to be an improvement on that, I think, for it to be successful. I think the touchscreen and giving everyone a placemat and basically assigning kids a placemat and all that is the way to do it. And I don't want to use the term placemat, but like you said, roll it out on the table. Here you go, off you go. And
they're at 18 inches right now. I mean, that's kind of if you can get into that sweet spot where you're basically at the equivalent of a large laptop, or even a small screen in that 19 to 26 inch range, and you're that close to it, you're basically saying that you're laying it on a table and you're within 2 to 3 feet of it, and even if you've got a couple of people huddled around, that's pretty cool and pretty effective. And at that point, you got to imagine with the streaming, at that point, then you stream and then you connect to a station if you do want it on a presentation board for the teachers. So.
And I'm looking at your type of business of you're laying out a custom control interface with someone and whiteboarding it, and you're saving it right there on the, and you can even you could theoretically simulate it in real time on the table. As someone who has to carry around heavy pieces of equipment like an amplifier or stuff like that, if you get high resolution HD and make a virtual rack and be able to look at it at 1-to-1 ratio and see the connectors and all that stuff, because that would be huge. The
OLED amplifier coming soon.
We have virtual racks for our trade shows now.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, Bradford. You need to work for a different company if you want lighter equipment. So, just go work for IEG. They spell or SBSI, the little boxes. So.
We got those now. We also have lights.
Yes.
I can just also carry a microphone.
You have an entire control company, so let's be honest. You have an entire control company now.
I got lighting now, control.
You've got video.
I can decide what I carry.
Yes.
Next comes shades.
How's the AMX installation going in your house?
Well, the wife has said she likes the TiVo remote better, and yes, we're joking.
Yes, we're joking. Bradford works for Harman. Harman bought AMX. If I have to explain that again, it's silly. And one real quick thing, just because I thought of this because of Infocom and some stuff that Bradford and I have been talking about this week. You mentioned wrapping it around polls. I see that also as a revenue generator for people like LVCC and like the Orange. What?
Can we say columns?
Yeah, it's.
What's wrong with pillars?
Pillars, just fine. We'll move on. This is
Wrapping
the
around all of a
juvenile
sudden I hear
section.
DJ music, and I'm holding a fistful of singles, and it just.
I didn't say pole. I said pillar.
Let's rewind that and check.
If I had said,
we're gonna fact check you on that.
I didn't mean to say pole.
The fact that both of us started laughing is just.
All right.
I was fine.
Let's move on. Speaking of Infocom and Harman, you guys introduced. This is from our buddy Matt D. Scott, who I'm not sure why he wrote this piece because he never went by the Harman booth. But that's
no, he actually did.
Oh, did he? Did he make it?
Yes, I actually gave him a walkthrough of the entire product family, just like I did for you. And if Rich was there, I would have done the same for that. If any of our listeners had shown up, I would have done it.
Don't say that. The three of them that listen are going to come up to you next time, and
I'll be the one in the suit.
That's true. So you guys introduced something. Harman Crown introduced an interesting thing, and actually, we did indeed go through the Harman tour. The very first endpoint for AVB that's been certified, right? And we have to qualify all these things, right? It's not the first AVB endpoint. It's the first one that has been certified as an AVB product. The very first certified AVB product was, of course, the Switch, because that makes sense from Extreme Networks. So you guys released the first endpoint, right?
Yeah. So let me just explain a little bit about the certification, just because when you say certified, it's Avenue Alliance, which is, I forget what the acronym stands for, my apologies, but it's done through University of New Hampshire as a third-party interoperability lab to make sure that stuff talks together. So what this does is when you get through your certification, it means you can plug stuff from brand A into brand B, into brand C, into brand D. So despite what some people are thinking of, you can only use, let's say, BSS with Crown and Tessera with Lab Grouping and Meyer with Meyer, no, if it's Avenue certified, you can use anything with anything. And I can talk about the stream setup and teardown and all that stuff. So the fact that this is the first certified one for Avenue Alliance means you can use various software tools to set up 1722.1 streams and tear them down, and we can talk to the AVB Extreme Switch, and you can see your stream IDs and set up reservations and all that stuff. It's been a while in the making. I've been involved with this process when I was at Crown before I moved up to Harman Pro, and it's working well. We have it working with other companies as part of this certification process. One of the big things that I like about the certification is we can't test our stuff with our stuff. So BSS can't test with a Crown amplifier, and Crown can't test with the BSS product. Now, we could test with other brands, and the reason I'm being obtuse about the other brands is because we have certain confidentiality in the agreements. I'm not saying we're the only ones doing it. It's just they haven't publicly released it yet, and so I don't want to.
Let me hang on for a second. Let me at least, because I don't have, I don't have, I didn't sign a confidentiality. I will relay my experience from Infocom 2013, right? Which none of these were certified yet, because again, the very first Avenue Alliance certified product was in February of this year.
Yes, but the Extreme Switch.
The Extreme Switch. It was a Shure microphone.
Yep.
Going into a Sennheiser auto mixer, going into a Yamaha board, going into a computer with Pro Tools.
Yes.
So those, and that was at the booth, right? So that was one thing that Avenue was showing was the interoperability.
So I thought that was a Avid console.
No, it was a Yamaha.
Okay.
Because an Avid console going into Pro Tools wouldn't be very impressive. I can do that with Digico all day long.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, forgot.
But go ahead, continue.
I was waiting for the end of your story.
Well, that was it. So the first question is why, right? Why did Harman do this? Why has Harman been on the Avenue Alliance since almost the beginning?
We were one of the founders of it.
And why do the amp? I mean, why do the amp with AVB in it?
The amp was based on market demands.
Okay.
And we've had the BSS AVV product, even though it wasn't certified, for over a year and a half. It was the first one out. However, the certification process wasn't ready. So how do you test to certify it? It was this chicken and the egg thing. It's part of the whole, we'll let you pick your transport. But we see AVB as a very good technology that gives you lots of cool things. That the fact that it's open standard is good, but also it helps us in the consumer division. We're using this in automotive stuff, as has been seen previously, because being able to lower the weight in cars is a huge issue. So if you can lower your wiring infrastructure. There are other players on the committee, such as Cisco, that we were expecting stuff coming out from, the Xilinx, who makes chips, and Marvell, who makes chips. They're also very involved in it. So we're looking at this as another option. Now, as to why we did it, straight up, we had market demand for the amplifiers. So we met a customer's needs. And that's why that went through before the BSS piece did. It was just based on the projects.
Yeah.
There are other companies that we're going to be interconnecting with, and they're in that process as well. So it goes around. But it's still one of these, we try to give you it's much like the Yamaha console has the MY cards, and the Soundcraft consoles have the card slots of the pick your protocol.
Yeah.
If you want to do analog, AES, AVB, BlueLink, which is our proprietary protocol, CobraNet, or Dante, pick the protocol. There are advantages to AVB. There are advantages to Dante. There's advantages to CobraNet. And we can, that's a whole podcast on its own. I think we should do that.
We should. Seriously, we should. Because even someone who I would say is one of the biggest, I'm not being differential to you. You guys, Harman, like I said, has been a founding member of AVNU, but Biamp has been there as well. Yep. One of their biggest product lines, I don't know that they did this, but it feels like they designed an entire product line, the Tessera, around AVB. That even has Dante card available.
Right, and I can talk about some of the differences of the fact that Dante requires Dante controller to control the entire network, whereas each endpoint can talk to other endpoints directly for setting up and tearing down streams. Now, one of the things that I've seen some misunderstandings about after Infocom on a couple of the other forums I'm on is control versus digital audio transport.
Okay.
AVB is a digital audio transport. The fact that Biamp can control lab grouping is because they are sharing the control protocol, not the AVB protocol. The fact that we can control Crown products and BSS products and AKG and Soundcraft because we have the HiQNet protocol.
Yes.
So it is truly just a protocol. Now, there are some provisions in there for some basic housekeeping, just like there are in CobraNet. I can set up and tear down streams on other manufacturers, and that's part of the 1722.1 requirement. So we can advertise what streams we're playing, whereas in Dante, you have to go into Dante controller, do your cross points, and then set your routing. The device you can make those changes on your own without having to go in there. But it's a pretty cool thing in some of the stuff it does that it allows you to do.
Well, and speaking as a kind of as an outsider from this, because obviously, Resi's more my sweet spot, but there again we're kind of at that parallel that we saw in the PC industry. Somebody had to take the first step. And if you think about it, again, just look at networking. When you had 10BASE-T, that were T-taps. You had star configuration. Networking was a whole series of different communication standards until there was enough groundswell from all of the competing manufacturers to say it's just easier to play together at this point. And I think that more so in the commercial world than in the consumer world, it's just making more market sense at this point. Because if you're so focused on proprietary technology, you're potentially, and especially some of these companies that are so diversified as they are, like you were talking about, you've got the commercial side, you've got large arena, you've got automotive. You got 15 different subcategories that you guys are operating in. Well, why not knock yourself out if you can be in part of it? whether you're an endpoint, whether you're a starting point, whether you are an amplification side or a signal processing side. For me, it's a matter of going, finally, there's at least one manufacturer who said, we can do a better job of this collectively, in the same way. I mean, think about, and the analogy I take is look at computers. You used to have the FireWire, and you would have PCM-CIA cards, and you would have, all of these different proprietary links. Now, how many people just say, yeah, either use ESB or Ethernet, and we call it a day?
Yep.
I mean, that's the whole point. And where these companies haven't gone away. These companies have just simply diversified and have been able to focus on creating the value-added services, as opposed to, we're going to go ahead and lock everything in our own little sandbox. So, the ability to grab Dante and AVB, and we're seeing it even in some of the other companies. I mean, obviously with the acquisition of AMX by Harman, that adds a new wrinkle to things. But Crestron and Dante are now are going to be working together. I mean, so it is fortunately the necessary evolution of how this how these disparate products need to start working together. Because the fact is that the consumers, the facilities managers, all the decision makers aren't buying the story anymore. And that's really what it is.
Yeah.
Is that we had manufacturers for the longest time saying, well, it's our intellectual property, and this is what we do that makes us special, and this is how we differentiate ourselves in the market, and if we don't do it this way, well then, we're opening ourselves up for other companies to put us out of business. And the decision makers are going, so?
And if you notice, we do both. You can do proprietary closed loop, or you can do open. And I think the market's going to decide. Exactly like you said. The market's going to decide. When people go, why are you doing all the different transports? We're letting you guys decide how you want to do it. We're just going to give you a nice big box of crayons. Used to be 64 colors. Then we added a couple more. We're up to the 128. I'm hoping to get the 256 soon, because I want to,
Do we have the crayon
sharpener? Oh yeah, of course. But
real quick, Rich, I don't want to gloss over this, because you do live primarily in the residential world, and I could very well be mistaken here, or I may have on a pair of rose-colored glasses when it comes to AVB. However, when it comes to larger installations, right, multi-level homes or homes spread out over different wings, homes that a lot of times that you're dealing with,
You've got outbuildings, you've got the pool house, you've got the gym,
exactly.
You've got,
Does this
not make sense for them? I mean, does AVB not make sense in those aspects?
It completely makes sense. I mean, the problem that we have right now, again, it's I mean, I can give you a perfect example. I mean, this was, God, when was this? 1998, 1999. We were working on a project in Charlottesville, Virginia. It was a horse farm. Huge campus. It was like 9 buildings. We had to bring out bulldozers and excavators, and we had to lay fiber trenches between these buildings because we had a centralized rack. We had this huge matrix switcher. And the only way that we could do it was we had to, and think about that, fiber 16 years ago, it was not a small venture at the time. And so the ability, for us to be able to look and say, yeah, absolutely, you add this other building, you can either go, you can still go glass in between the 2 buildings, or you can go ahead and you can go with an Ethernet cable in between the 2, and you've got sufficient bandwidth if you're just talking audio. But at that point, then you start thinking about the bandwidth, and you start going, well, what if you did go wireless? I mean, we still have latency issues. I mean, the whole thing, it's, I've told the story before that Ruckus Wireless, who makes wireless controllers, their original start was a company called Video 54, which I consulted for. And their whole reason for coming into existence originally was trying to figure out how to do wireless audio and video. And the issues that they found out at that time were the whole latency issues, and that's where they started figuring out about the multi-in, multi-out configurations to go ahead and be able to kind of reroute the signal whenever it sees problems coming through. So, kind of coming back to this where it ties into residential, absolutely, and it's even more so even with just a standard home at that point, which is, here's your network, here is your Dante or AVE or AVB or whatever technology flavor of the month you have, as long as you've got these right endpoints in between, that's kind of the promise. That's been the promise that companies have been trying to make to the consumer technology at this point, which is you just plug it in and it works. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's a whole lot more to it, but if there's at least one more step that helps streamline that process, 15 years ago, look at the penetration of high-speed internet. Look at it now. 15 years ago, look at the residential, the concept of the residential computer network was a foreign thought. Now, again, 1999, you're heading in at Target and you're good to go. So, and we've talked about it before. It's not only the technology, it's not only the fact of being in the home, it's the consumer. The consumer themselves, this generation that's coming up, is going to expect it. They will not have the tolerance for the stories that have been going on in the AV industry for the past 60 years. You can already see it. They're just not putting up with it because they can see, based on how the technology industry is moving, that a lot of times these manufacturers are absolutely digging in their heels. I've gone on record several times, absolutely digging in their heels until the last possible minute because it changes the way that they've always done business.
Yep.
It changes the way they do business. Well, they're probably going to. The fear at that point is we're going to lose money, and we don't want to lose money. And so it's this irrational fear almost. It happens from a cultural standpoint, from the manufacturer themselves. And again, like I said, I commend them for these companies that are saying, you know what, somebody's got to do it. It might as well be us. And it takes somebody to go ahead and work their way through the industry.
And oddly enough, it takes a big group of people because it's not just one or two. It's Avenue Alliance is a very large organization with a lot of well-established companies. So Harman is again among them. All right, we'll take a short break here and talk about our buddies over at Mid-Atlantic. We got to hang out with Becky Villarreal. They got a couple of awards while we're at InfoComm this year. If you want, you can check out our booth tour of that. You get to see Becky, and we got to see the new credenzas they have. A couple years ago, they introduced them. They're called the new C5 series. They got a bunch of new different overlay options, in addition to their Flex View display solution. I'm kind of smirking because I had some fun with it. One of the SKUs on it allows
you. What's a SKU?
A SKU is okay. So a SKU is it is a different version of a particular product.
A stock keeping unit.
It's stock keep. Oh, okay. So that is an actual acronym. Okay.
Yes.
Well,
sorry, I interrupted because I have the rule.
It's an acronym, and you can't use an acronym unless you know what it means. BFD.
Sorry, Becky Duck.
BFD. So this SKU of the Flex View display solution has a button on the back and allows you to go up and down and up and down and up and down. It was cool. It was fun. So yeah, they have displays. They have display solutions. 3 different models of them. One has a very large base to it. It's built for video conferencing systems. It doesn't have one built in. It doesn't have a battery backup built in, but it has places for it. Again, they have the one that has the motorized up and down, has a place in the back so you can install product. It's very, very cool. And again, the C5 series credenzas, tons more colors, tons more options to do it. It's still the same great credenza that they've had for 3 or 4 years now. I think 4 new colors on it. If you didn't get a chance to go to InfoComm or didn't get a chance to go by their booth, go by their website, middleatlantic.com, or go to our YouTube page or our website, where we have the Mid-Atlantic booth tour. So thanks to Becky and thanks to Mid-Atlantic. Go by the website again, middleatlantic.com, Mid-Atlantic Products, what great systems are built on. All right, guys, couple of more minutes here, and so that's why I'm going to bounce around. This story here, I'm asking both of you because both of you have been around the world a couple different times, and here's the question for this, right? This comes from AMEinfo.com. Mall of America, Mall of the World, yes. To transform Dubai into a tourist, economic, and cultural hub. They are making the world's biggest mall, and that's kind of why I slipped and said Mall of America. It will be much bigger than the U.S.'s Mall of America, our biggest mall. here's the question for you. So I'm going to just take a wild stab and say they're going to need a couple speakers in this system, probably a couple amplifiers. Actually, probably a really good job for for AVB. How do you get this job? And maybe not this job specifically, but Rich, I've long been an admirer of you, your work, but not only that, but your work ethic and the types of jobs that you get to do. So we'll start with you. How do you get stuff like this? How do you get involved with jobs like this? Is it reading the trade magazines? Is it connecting with contractors? Or is it even before that where you get in really good with a really cool architect and you get to know them very well and they get to know and appreciate your work? But how do you get on the inside of these jobs as an integrator or a design consultant or a programmer? How do you get into jobs like this?
Well, I think there's two sides to it. You've got kind of the macro view, and then you've got the micro view of where you work in. Obviously, and Bradford will attest to this, that normally a project like this, there will wind up being a very large design firm and consultant who will be involved in the project, and they will be responsible for the master plan. Within that master plan, hopefully, from a manufacturer standpoint, you're hoping to be on the short list. Yep. From the contractor standpoint, you're hoping to be on the preferred list, or at least the hey, somebody dropped dime and called me list. Yeah. Then you go down even further. Within these large design firms, you then have associates. And these associates may be responsible for different segments. Some will be responsible for the control side, the audio side, the acoustic side, ... So at that point, maybe it's somebody you've worked with in the past, maybe it isn't. I mean, take a look at ballparks. There's like 3 companies that build ballparks. That's it. And one of them does most of them.
Yeah, and that's the one that usually sucks, but that's beside the
point. Hey, I like them.
You love them. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
does
it
start with an H? I'm just asking.
Yeah. And I think Brad can probably chime in a little bit more kind of on that macro side, which is when you need 10,000 of these things, right? So that's kind of the master community view. The other side that actually, I would say that would be the majority of the people who kind of get in on this podcast or trying to figure out how do I do it. You're actually on the micro level, which is there's going to be tenants who are in these places. So, you do have your Pottery Barn, or you do, the Dubai equivalent of Pottery Barn, or the Dubai equivalent of...
which is actually Pottery Barn, having been there.
I don't think that Pottery Barn is quite in a compliance with either Sharia or the other.
You say that, but I also went to McDonald's and Pizza Hut and Burger King and KFC there. It's not everything has to be...
There's pockets.
There are pockets, and commerce wins.
Mm-hmm. Where I would see that a lot of the integrators, because again, this thing's massive. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, it's a mini city. So there's going to be
within a city.
Yes.
There's going to be hundreds, if not thousands, of independent companies that are in there. Who some will need digital signage, or some will need music.
Flexible OLEDs.
They'll need or they'll need point of sale help, and so all the things. So at that point, your relationship becomes almost on the individual business owner standpoint. And again, like anything else, that project will be and that project begins, another project begins, another project. I bring up a client, a friend of mine, dear friend of mine. When we started out, he gave me my break in the industry. That's kind of how his business model ran, is that when we first started out 20-something odd years ago, we were installing speakers. It was like a retailer would sell these in-wall speakers and we'd install them. And he would wind up befriending the owner of a company that started small, with a company in San Francisco that then became 10 companies, then became 50 companies, then became 500 companies, and the same layout that started in San Francisco.
Step and repeat.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, always keep working, always keep talking, and how do you do it? You say what you do what you say, you get it done, You undercommit and you overprovide. You keep somebody happy and you give them reasons to call you back. And I wish there was some kind of magical formula other than you got to put you put in the work. And from the manufacturer standpoint, I think Bradford can probably pipe in a lot better than I can.
All right.
Yeah.
Bradford,
So
from the manufacturer standpoint, how do you guys get involved?
So for us, it starts at the consultant and developer level and the architect level. So by the time this is announced, they've already got someone who said this building is going to cost you X billions of dollars, and of that, this percentage will be AV, and of that, this percentage will be facility infrastructure, and this will be equipment, and this will be my consultant fee. And I'm not saying that to be mean, but you're paying for expertise. So there are a couple of consultants in the world that can do projects of this scale. Same reason there are a couple sports consultants that can do many of the same sporting jobs around the world because they understand running a sports stadium. Consultants understand running a mall, an airport, pick your venue. As the manufacturer, we go in and we talk with the consultants and start asking them what problems they have and how can we solve them. And you'll see this in product development. You'll see product schedules change as a result of some of these commitments, and products accelerated because of needing to meet these schedules. This is 2020 that they say they want to have it open, but there are other projects where it's 5 years or 3 years, but it's a long-term project. Whereas a lot of people look at it as, okay, let me just go in and this will take me about 3 months to install. No, you're shepherding this from beginning to end. You're partnering. You're talking about how you have better widgets, how you can solve the customer's problems, the partnerships with them, and working all the way through. And it's a very fine line to walk because as the manufacturer, we don't want to overstep what the consultant's doing. We don't want to overstep what the contractor's doing. We need to solve their problems. And you work all the way through and you start talking with them about custom products that they need or modifications to products. And then you start looking at literally thousands upon thousands of pieces. And you just go, okay, you're going to order 10,000 of these. And you want them in a custom color? Sure. Tell us what color. Oh, you want 5 of them? Let's work on. And so this is a true partnership on a project of this size. And you follow it all the way through. And oftentimes you start to interact with the contractors. The consultants will say, who do you have in the area that's done projects of this size? Who do you have that's done this? And to be honest, this is where some of the benefits of working for large companies help. If you're going to spend a couple $1 billion on this new mall, do you want to work with a smaller company that's not as financially stable or a larger company? So there's a whole lot of stuff in there, and this is why a lot of times you see a lot of the same companies going over and over again, because they can bond for $2 or $3 million. They have the staff to be able to handle this. So you watch it all the way through the project. There are projects I've been working on. I've been working on for 3 years, and it's not going to be finished for another 2 years. No contractors involved yet, but I still have to work and think through and make sure they have the issues they need solved.
Okay, so let me ask this real quickly, because you've said this a couple times about your long range projects, and as a design consultant in my real job, part of what Innovad does is we're a design consultancy, not to this level yet, but we're getting there.
Once you're done installing the AMX system in my house, then I can recommend it.
Then I'll be at that level. So you're talking about lead times of 2, 3, 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Good God, this is not the 1970s where we're going to have VGA. Well, we're not going to have VGA yet. But we're going to have composite for another 10, 15 years. We've all sat and have felt some of the rug burn of the way technology has moved the last couple of years. How the heck do you do that and still stay competent and still stay consistent when you open the doors and they're not 2, 3 years behind technology-wise?
So when you start talking about a 5-year project, you start at concepts of we want a video screen here, and we want to be able to have a band play here, and we want that when you walk into the mall, there's a little chime that says, you're parked in lot 7, please remember where you're parked, and stop by the Oasis here to get your beverages and all that stuff. So you start talking
overviewing, like
a truly conceptual. Yeah, And then the consultants typically start with okay, let's put infrastructure in. I don't know what's going in the conduit yet, but I know I need a conduit of at least this size based on current technology. Okay. So you start doing that, and then it comes back to the most hated words in any project. These are the two dirtiest words you'll ever hear on a project. Value engineering.
I just did that last week.
But then you go through and you start going, okay, at the current price.
Side, when you're actually out there, the other two bad words are field verify.
Yes.
Oh.
And if you're the owner, it's change order.
Was owner supplied equipment.
Oh yeah. But so you start going with and then you start talking to the manufacturers of what technology is coming. Before we released this AVB amp, we already had customers that were interested in it.
And you knew you were doing it. So
we partnered with them and said, oh, you need this technology by that timeline. And we, I'm not trying to be obtuse, but just there's confidentiality and discreteness you have to have you talk with them and go, what projects are you working on? What problems can I solve for you? Oh, you're looking for something that'll do 64 channels of audio down a half-inch conduit? Let me go talk to my engineers. We got this thing called AVB. We got this thing, called FlugelNet. I know it's your favorite network protocol.
It is.
That'll do that. So you start talking with them, and then usually sometime between when the project breaks ground and when the project makes their purchases, a good consultant and good team, not just for AV, but for everything, will have a technology update. There's a more efficient water chiller. LED lights are better than compact fluorescents because they've made these leaps and bounds. Yeah. So that's usually somewhere in there if you start making those decisions. And then you just keep updating, but you try to do okay, I have a 2-inch conduit. I have a 4-inch conduit. I know what I have now will fit in it. The bigger problems are, okay, if I want to put a speaker cluster here, I need steel in the roof. So I don't know what speakers I'm doing yet because the acoustics aren't done, but I'm going to take a guess of my cluster is going to weigh 10,000 pounds. And I want to put up an OLED screen that rolls down in 3D and I can put stuff on it.
That would be awesome.
I need a PowerPoint there and there. So you start with what's the overview, and you get more and more detailed as things get on. And it sounds like a joke, but I've literally been on projects where I'm at the 1-to-1 scale model of oh, look, that's a good spot for a speaker. Let's add one. Oh, look, there's a conduit 3 feet away. So it's a very long process. The key is the partnership of communication. There are some people I work with, I call them once a week, and literally the conversation is, anything I need to worry about? Any change? Nope, cool, see you next week. There are other ones, they want to talk once every 6 months. And as the consultant, as the contractor, as the manufacturer, you need to work with people and see how they work best. And it's one of these things of, if you're the contractor going, ooh, they just broke ground, you got to start sowing those seeds beforehand. It's kind of like when you find out about it, and I'll use another thing as an example. When you find out about a church that's doing fundraising for a new building, that's when you start talking with them, not when they break ground, because they've already spent that money before they've broken ground. So you got to start on the process at the very beginning as soon as you get wind of it. And the big thing is, as Rich said, work hard and do good work. One of the things I see oftentimes in my previous life as a contractor and now as a manufacturer, people forget you're leaving the biggest calling card in the world behind when you walk away from a project.
It's your system.
It's your system. Is it good documentation? Does it work? Did you call them up 30 days afterwards to make sure they didn't have any problems? One of the things that I'll just assume Rich does, I don't know, I know a bunch of control programmers do this, give the homeowner, give the client, give the restaurant operator the control system for 90 days, then come in and make adjustments instead of saying, here it is, final. And that's kind of where you start to get your wins. And we do the same thing as a manufacturer of, are things working? What problems did you have that we can solve for you? And the big thing that I think everyone doesn't like, and I say this, you don't want to be that guy who comes in and goes, hey, what's it going to take to get you in a sound system today? I'll throw in the undercoating. It's a partnership. A lot of times people forget that if your customers don't succeed, you don't succeed.
Sorry, I imagine Bradford in a really bad polyester suit. Oh, good. Yeah, very nice, yeah. 2 thumbs up. All right. Very good word. So you integrators and design consultants don't listen, because you guys all never mind. That's the competitive side of it.
But to be serious, this sounds funny. I've seen consultants on these 5-year projects and contractors on these 5-year projects forget their 5-year projects and not budget effectively. If you have to go to a project management meeting once a week for 2 years, and it takes you 3 hours at that meeting, you're now at 300 hours. That's a whole bunch of money, especially if you put in transit and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You got to think about some of this stuff.
Absolutely. All right. CEDIA is a show that I personally have never been to.
What's it stand for?
I don't
Custom
know.
Electronic Design and Installation Association.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
The home of the Eskies.
Siaka beat me by like 3/4 of a second. we had that with Bill Cordell.
Oh, also, we have to say before we have to say hi to Chris Netto. He's already commenting on the Twitter about
and your fine folks in Salt Lake City, the people in Harmon that are watching from Salt Lake City.
But apparently he says we need to bleep the term value engineering.
Well, we do. It's a dirty word. It's not one of George Carlin's 7 dirty words, but it is a dirty word.
You told me I'm not allowed to use those.
So I don't care if you do. You and I no longer are under the FCC's thumb.
Sweet.
Yeah, one thing I learned about Bradford in this past week is that he used to work in radio too. So, the FCC's the devil.
Before you two started talking about wrapping poles.
Yeah, you know what?
I had nothing to do with that.
Anyhow, CEDIA, please let me get through this. So Aviation is going. We're going to go cover CEDIA. Here's the thing, and it's not that I don't like CEDIA or don't do anything. I don't live in the world of residential. I live in a house, but you know what I mean. But a lot of our people do. Obviously Rich Fregosa, a buddy of mine for 3 years now. That's where he lives. Matt Scott, a great friend of and our webmaster at Aviation, lives in residential. Todd Anthony Puma, that's where he lives. Heather Sidorowitz, this is where these folks live, and CEDIA is their show. Not that Infocom's not a great show; they go to that too, but that is the more pro and commercial side, and CEDIA is it's the residential. So actually, Chris Netto started some ruckus on Twitter and had a very nice conversation with the folks at CEDIA. They said, yes, we'd love to have you, and so we're going to go out and cover it. We're going to do AVWeek from there. So, Mr. Fregosa, buffer the head and get your camera.
I've already changed my my tagline just since we're announcing it now that we can officially announce that we will be there.
Will it still be an AV selfie, or is it going to be a CE selfie, or what's
that's
the plan
thing is a lot of, because if you don't know what the AV selfie is, go to our webpage or our YouTube page. We did an AV selfie video, right? Phil Cordell did a parody song of the Chainsmokers song "Selfie," AV selfie, for Infocom. I talked with him last night. He is working on a CEDIA version of the AV selfie parody. So there's a very good chance that everyone going to CEDIA can take their AV selfies, and we will be working with our friends out New Jersey way to hopefully play it on their display again. I'm not sure if that display will be in 4K or not, but so we're going to go to CEDIA. We hope that those of you that are interested in commercial or in residential, we're going to go too. One thing though is the CEDIA Awards, and there are a number of different ones. I'll put a link on this on the website, but there is the Lifetime Achievement Award, which I'll nominate George Tucker because he's been around forever and a day. The Young Professional of the Year, which is none of us here. So, that's just, wrong. Manufacturer's Representative of the Year. I know a couple that should and a couple that should be the opposite of that. So if you're interested in doing anything with that, I believe the deadline is this week. So go. We'll put a post on our page. To this.
The deadline for the designer and technical awards has passed.
Has passed.
Has passed. Yes.
But the other ones have not passed yet, though. No.
The other ones are internally nominated. So,
okay.
But when you get to CEDIA, we do have a CEDIA Awards banquet where the winners will be announced, as well as the 2014 CEDIA Fellow will be announced. I know that the 2013 CEDIA Fellow, Jeremy Glowacki from Residential Systems, will probably be in attendance.
Okay.
So, and it's a good time. It's a great party, and in terms of the selfie, as part of the CEDIA social media team, I think we might be able to arrange getting the word out.
You got in the other selfie. I put this on Twitter yesterday. I was listening to it actually to hear it, what changes that Phil would have to make, and I'm watching it. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's Fregosa. Fregosa wasn't nowhere near Vegas. And
Ain't no party but an Uncle Richie party. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't we tell the story how Rich and I can control the world of audio remotely?
Yes.
We are the two most important people in the entire industry.
You are.
Just ask my ego, it'll tell you.
Exactly. I showed up. It's like I showed up and I wasn't even there.
Exactly.
And that photo was taken at the CEDIA Awards banquet in 2012, I think. So either 2012 or 2013. So there's an inception moment for you right there.
Well, it was very nice. So yeah, so you're coming out to CEDIA, hang out with us, and there's a lot of nice folks that are covering it as well. CN will be there. Our buddies at EH with CE Pro, which is Rich does work with most. I think Rave goes out there as well, just not as big as Infocom.
Correct.
Same with us. I mean, we won't have nearly the same people. So
the other half of my company will be there, so definitely make sure you see them.
Which is?
It would be Harman Consumer. It'd be Harman Kardon, Mark Levinson, there's
AMX?
And AMX. So.
And there's also talk that they're trying to get me to do an AV tweet up party. So we're trying to figure that out. If you don't know what that is, last couple of years, AV Nation and some very nice sponsors, AMX being one of them, has put together basically a networking event, right, during one of the nights of Infocom. And so there's a very good possibility that as long as we can get all the I's dotted and T's crossed and figure out actually where to do it, there's a good chance that we'll do a tweet up there as well. So yeah, CEDIA 2014 Denver. The dates are the 11th through the 13th, if I'm not mistaken.
Of September.
Of September, yes, thank you. If you're a football fan, there is a home game for the Broncos on the 14th. So if you're a baseball fan, you're out of luck because they're actually in St. Louis that week, which is odd. So there you go. If you're in residential, go to CEDIA. All right, gentlemen, that is going to do it for this week. Mr. Bradford Ben from Harman, the main part and the most important part and the most prompt part of the Bradford and Matt show. Where can people find you or find out more about you and your lovely podcast?
So there is bradfordben.com. There is info.harman.com or info.harmanpro.com.
Don't you have a Harman email address? Or
there's bradford.ben@harman.com.
You didn't have to do that.
There's me at bradfordben.com. There's
Twitter,
Bradford Ben.
There you go.
Google Plus, Bradford Ben. Tumblr, Bradford Ben.
You still have a Tumblr? I thought they got bought.
Yeah, I still have it. Doesn't mean I put any content up there.
Oh.
Photos.bradfordben.com,
Nice.
from all my pictures. Let's see, I'm launching another website in a couple of weeks, probably as a result of the AV tweet up, actually.
Really?
That happened at Infocom. Yes.
What can you say?
Yeah, there's no content there, but feel free to stop by. Matt Scott was trying to explain me to someone else. And I said, you see, you have to understand, I don't like anybody, but I like people. I like a person. I don't like people.
Okay.
The idea of people in general, you go to an airport, it's crowded. You go to a baseball game, it's crowded. The global populace can get tiresome. But I'm very nice to people, as you've seen.
Yes, very nice.
So the best description I've ever heard of me is I am the benevolent misanthrope.
Very nice.
So I now have that domain, and I'm trying to figure out what to do with it.
You should do a mocked-up version of you as Maleficent. Especially with that goatee.
What are you saying?
Don't break any copyright laws or anything. I'm just it's parody.
Yes.
All right. Now that I have an image of you and Angelina Jolie mashed together in my head, we're going to move on to Fregosa.
I need an adult. I need an adult.
Mr. Fregosa, thank you so much, sir. Yes, go if you're registering for Cedia, please type in code
Expo,
CT3.
so expo.cedia.net, online registration. Use Cedia code CT3 and help Uncle Richie get on his way to being a top Cedia tweep.
What do you guys get for that, by the way?
Cool parting gifts
rights.
like a steak dinner. Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
I think they take care of airfare and a couple other things, but mostly bragging rights.
And we do have to give Rich a shout out, since you were talking about the forming of AVNation.
Yes.
When many of us met up for the first time at Cedia in Indianapolis, Rich bought us all dinner, which was very
nice.
Magnificent of him. So that was what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
3 years ago. 3 years ago. It was a good time had by all.
Yes.
So
it was at Taco Bell, but he still bought.
They could only order from the 29-cent menu. That was it, you know.
And that's how long ago it was. Taco Bell still had a 29-cent menu. All right. So Rich Fregosa, fregosa.design.com, CT3 for the Cedia Expo code. Anything else for you, or how people can find you?
At Fregosa, pretty much type my name into the interwebs, and it shows up on the Facebooks and the Google Plus and the podcasts. So yeah, that's about it.
All right. My name is Tim Albright. Don't follow me in any way, shape, or form. If you're interested in the company I work for, it's innovad.com. But more importantly for me and everybody here at AVNation, go by the website, please. Matt Scott does an awful lot of hard work on it. He even takes suggestions from the Peanut Gallery. Yesterday, Bradford Ben sends he and I an email, says, "Hey, there's no search function on your website." Within a couple hours, there was a search bar on our website. So, you know, if he's nothing if not responsive to stuff like that.
Although he was late to the podcast.
He was late to the podcast.
We're still waiting for him to show up to this episode.
Yes. Hoping that it's the Bradford and Matt show. So we now have a search feature on our website. We also have something that we're kicking around, right? It's a newsletter. Well, on the website, it's a sign up for a newsletter, but it's something we're kicking around because we're starting to get more and more bloggers and the content. We've got a lot of stuff going on. So basically, it's to keep you informed, right? If you're interested in what we're doing and you either don't do Twitter or you don't do it a lot, because that's pretty much where we push stuff out to, is Twitter and Facebook. It's just another way for us to keep you informed about what we're doing. So if you're interested in that, if you go by the website on the right-hand side, there's a sign up for the newsletter. So go by there.
Make sure you tell them that I sent you, because I need all the.
You tell them that Bradford Ben sent you. There is not a field for that, but feel free to just kind of put that in your last name, I guess.
I'll have Matt add that to the site.
You know, Rich Fregosa / Bradford Ben sent me. You could do that. You know. So yeah, check that out if you would, please. Tons of stuff from Infocom.
We'll have a new show, Uncle Richie and the benevolent misanthrope.
Yes.
Say that 5 times fast. So yeah, avnation.tv, this program, and tons of others. So check it out if you would, please. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. This has been AV Week.